understanding of a community within the concept of Martin Luther King and Gandhi towards the Middle East, and how we, as Palestinians, as Arabs, were able to find some common lines that we can knit together from Martin Luther King and Gandhi that shaped a little bit difference and make a difference in the Middle East, especially within the Palestinian. I'm a Palestinian, born in Jerusalem, and I lived my life in a very much of a conflict as the rest of the Palestinian, unfortunately, between Israelis and Palestinians. Palestinians are under occupation. And to be under occupation, it's a kind of a strategy for me to look at Gandhi, because India was under occupation. And in all my studies back in Jerusalem, I never heard of a fellow called Gandhi or a fellow called Martin Luther King. And we have a reason why our community were unable to hear anything about them. To understand the history of India and Gandhi, the majority of the Palestinians are Muslim, and when India got its independence, Gandhi was opposing to the separation of India to Pakistan as a Muslim state and keeping India separate. In our country, and most of the Muslim world and the Arab world, we felt Gandhi had something against Islam. So we never translate his books or his ideas, because we have it in his mind that Gandhi refused to accept an Islamic state, which is Pakistan. Yet Gandhi wanted a united India, and he failed. As far as Martin Luther King, we are so much have a little bit touchy about Christianity and Christians because of our history. A lot of Palestinians, a lot of Arabs were killed by the Crusaders in the name of the cross, in the name of Christ, and in the name of Christianity. So for us also, this Martin Luther King being a minister in a Baptist church, trying to have a civil rights movement and say what it is for us as Palestinians. We don't want to listen to one who belongs to a church. We have enough. We listen to one who was crucified, and we have nothing but trouble ever since. So how I brought this to you especially because I want to show you how we were able, how I was able to bring the teaching of Gandhi and Martin Luther King to the Palestinians and to the Arab population. What we gain from it, and how we gain from it, and what is the implementation later on for this. Maybe to you, King or Gandhi is only people who work with their countries. For us, they became more important what their message around the world can do. So after my high school, I came to the United States, and I came to Tennessee, which was a mistake, Because I was sent to a college in Tennessee called Cleveland College in Cleveland, Ohio, to study theology. And it was too much for me because they were so much Pentecostal. And here I am from the Orthodox Church, which hardly do anything with Pentecostals. I was able to make it for 2 years, and then I came back to Jerusalem without any religion. I couldn't stand, how is that? But that's how it happened to me. After that, I work in an orphanage in Beit Jala, and within that orphanage, I start hearing and learning more. It was a Mennonite orphanage, and Mennonites are not insects. They are a religious group that they believe in peace. And I was pushing to understand what it is that even religious organizations believe in peace. I was given an opportunity to go to Ohio, to Bluffton, Ohio, which is a Mennonite college. And then I start learning more about this Gandhi, learning more about King. And my question was to me, to myself, as well to the rest of the Palestinians, why we as Palestinians, we would not use these methods of Gandhi and King. What's about us? Why the Palestinians, they don't use it? And after I finished my education in the United States, I had a degree after a degree, and I felt good about myself. I decided to go back to Jerusalem and starting a center, but in that time it is a center for counseling kids, counseling families. And I found out that Palestinians at that time, they were not interested in counseling. Everybody you talk to is political. They want politics. So I decided that, well, I would start another center. And this time I started a center, I call it the Palestinian Center for the Study of Nonviolence. I was interested so much that to study about nonviolence, to study about Palestinians if they use any nonviolence method in their history, about Arabs and nonviolence, about Muslims and nonviolence. And I found out that in every country, in every race, there is a rich, very, very rich history of people using nonviolence. And if you want to learn nonviolence, you have to learn it from babies, not from professors. Imagine if you want to give your son, who is probably 2 months or 4 months or 6 months old, some potatoes or peas or something or carrots that he or she don't want to eat. He spit it back in your face. This is nonviolence. How he learned, that baby, that he can spit that thing because he don't want to eat it? What it is in his brain or his stomach or his body that he have to resist something he doesn't like. And if we as humans, as young people and adults, we can learn that we could resist on something we didn't like, then we become individuals who believe in the concept of nonviolence. Boy, I was very happy. Very, very, very happy. I start writing books, I start translating, I start doing. And one sentence came to my mind, which is very, very specific. And that sentence came from Gandhi. The Palestinian in 1936, they had a boycott for 6 months. And Gandhi mentioned, I wish that the Indian could learn from the Palestinian. We could liberate India faster. And I say, my God, here is a fellow that I like to hear about him. He praised the Palestinian nonviolent movement, which we don't know that even it exists. And I find so much of the Arabs and in the Arab culture that they have so many actions of nonviolence, but the bad thing in it, we don't report them. For an example, I'll give you one of the nonviolent action in Egypt. Egypt used to have a monarchy. In that time, Jamal Abdel Nasser and other military group, they went to kick that king out, and they kick him without a shot of a gun in a very non-violence act. But it's not written in places. Not so many people knew about it. So what I thought I'll do, that I'll go to India and study this concept of Gandhi. And I find that it is so important that we look at the man's work rather than the man himself. Forget that he is Hindu, but what he did becomes important to me as a Palestinian. So what I did after visiting India, I decided to buy every book that I would get that Gandhi wrote. And for you, sometimes you think that very simple. But I never knew that there is more than 200 books he wrote. It's like an encyclopedia he wrote. And I have to get that and carry them all the way with me to Jerusalem. But more important also, that there is a fellow by the name of Abdul Ghaffar Khan, that he is a Muslim himself, that he joined Gandhi because believing that non-violence is part of Islam. And I got his books, and I start translating, start writing, and it was wonderful to start writing. And I got 4x8 plywoods and put the picture of Gandhi. And then I start going to villages, in the middle of the village. And here I have something about Gandhi, something about King, and have people to come and see. And I was telling them about the power of non-violence, trying to give them books. And I thought, this is great, this is non-violence, work very well. Every Wednesday, I will have lectures or for people about non-violence. Even I was opposing complete opposition to the Palestinian Liberation Organization, we call it the PLO, because they believe in an armed struggle. And I said, we do not need an armed struggle. We need to use those methods of non-violence. We have 1.3 million Palestinians who have Israeli passport. They don't have civil rights in Israel. And what we learned from Martin Luther King, how he was able to get the rights of the black in the United States to be equal to the whites, I thought this is what we need to do also in Palestine. And it was regular in teaching nonviolence, and I enjoy it because I'm a professor, and if you are professors or a teacher, you love that people will like your materials, will like your books, and you enjoy it, you feel good about it. Well, I felt good about it. Then an elderly man came to the office in Jerusalem, and he said that he needs nonviolence. I said, yeah, here are some books. He said, no, you gave us all those books. He said, the Israeli settlers came and took my land. It's around 3-4 acres. And they put a fence around it. And I need my land back. I said, what? The whole Arab world couldn't get your land. The whole PLO with all their military armed struggle couldn't get their back. The UN couldn't get your land back. The Arab, and nobody could. And he said, you came and told us about the power of nonviolence. I said, did I? He said, yes. I was scared to death. I never thought that nonviolence means action to that extent that people can say, we can take our land back. Simply I told him, if he goes to the village, it's nearby Takua, nearby Bethlehem, and he tells the people there that no throwing stones, no running away, not even arguing with the Israeli military or the settlers, even if they start shooting at us, we will help you to get your land back. He said, all right. And when he left, in my heart, I said, I hope he doesn't come back. This is the fear of nonviolence. Whoever wants to accept the concept of being nonviolent, please understand it. It's very dangerous. It's very much, you are playing with fire. Who I am to tell those Palestinians that land is so more important than their lives and they might be killed? What is a crazy concept that if they were all, and they were all got shot? What is this nonviolence that can create so much violence? And I start questioning even the ability to be a nonviolent person. The fellow, after 3 days, he said, we are ready. And I said, the best thing I could do is I will write and call the newspaper in Hebrew and in Arabic and English and telling them this is what I'm going to do. At least if I am going to die, somebody will take a picture of me. And we went and we started taking the fence down. We were so much like completely out of ourselves from another world, knowing that the settlers have the guns, the Israeli military have the guns, they could shoot anytime, and we refused to budge. You want to shoot us all, kill us all. They start shooting in the air, they're shooting around us, shooting beside us, they try to threaten everything. The settlers and the military, nearly 6 hours, we were not thinking of moving a single bit out of that area until we take all the fence down. Then the military governor of the Israeli military governor from Bethlehem area came and he saw, and after an hour of negotiation with him, he said, this land is for the Palestinians. After that, in our center, we didn't write any single book. We have action. So when we are thinking of nonviolence, we start thinking of an action. And the action have not to come from us, the action have to come from the people. So when we are looking at Gandhi, we have to look at different concept of stages. And I was just telling someone that Gandhi is crazy, Gandhi. He's crazy, he's nuts. He writes so much, he does so much, he's very active. If you like to teach students about Gandhi, and something he says something, the other he says something else, he will say that I prefer that people use guns rather than being cowards. Well, but you're a non-violent person. So how you could compromise with these? With Martin Luther King, he has so much question. Should I wear this gun and shoot somebody who's going to kill me or kill my family? Or I shouldn't have a gun with me? And those are very much of a question that every one of us have to start thinking of. To be a non-violent person, you have to sacrifice. And people say, well, I sacrifice. I said, no, you didn't sacrifice. You have to sacrifice more. How many times you felt strongly that you should not eat for a day and send the money to some places in the world that they need food? How many times you sacrifice that you have 10 coats or 20 shoes, pair of shoes, and say, I don't need another one. I have to take that money and send it to someone else. When we are talking about a community, many times you have to sacrifice. And if you don't sacrifice, if you are not understanding sacrifice, you have difficulty understanding nonviolence. Gandhi did a great job for us as Palestinians as a strategy. He got the Salt March. And if you study the Salt March in Gandhi, you could see how genius he was. He put the British and the British Empire in a question that if he marched and he was successful, he wins. If he marched and he was arrested, he wins. And that becomes a kind of a strategy of non-violence. How you could do things on both sides and you wins. And in that Salt March, Gandhi put a little bit of sand in his hand, and he wasn't. He showed the British that this is our land. We could do whatever we want from it. When we are talking about occupation, please understand, occupation is wrong. It doesn't matter who occupy you. Nobody has to live under occupation. Not only that, occupation can destroy not only the occupiers, but the occupee. It's a destruction of the self and the soul of the one who occupies you. We as humans, we have the ability to be violent. Oh boy. Just look at the news, how violent we are. And we have a hard time in ourselves to crush what I would call it, our self-image in not being violent. But people, many of them, they cannot hold themselves. They are willing to shock people in electricity, kill people with guns, burn people, rape people. And this is violent. How could we work our society to get from that image to another image of an image of nonviolence? I have been working recently in Norway. I picked Norway because I find it very simple in Norway to see why they don't have a lot of violence in Norway. Why they don't have many youth in prison in Norway. Why they don't have a lot of men and women who are behind bars in Norway. And I came to a different conclusion. And I'll bring it to you. Not because they are different from us as people. I mean, Memphis, in one street of Memphis, one street probably, you have more kids and more people in jail and prison than the whole country of Norway. Are they better informed than us? Are they better educated? What it is in Norway that they don't have so many prisoners, and we have places and prison full of people. I was in a workshop in the morning, and I think the number was that we had 2 million people behind bars. 2 million. What it is in our society that make us so violent on that? And I find that in understanding the Norwegians, one thing they do, and I wish if you are a teacher or a peace worker, start thinking with me, they teach people about human rights from a young age. That person you are talking with, you are sitting with, a boy or a girl have the same right as you. That man or a woman have rights. Not because of the race, not because of color, of religion, everybody have a right. And to accept this right, I cannot infringe and take the rights of another individual. So I don't hurt other individual. And that's from children. And I was so much amazed that we in the United States, that we didn't even sign the Child Convention. We didn't sign it. The human right for children, we didn't sign it. 2 countries, United States and Somalia, refused to sign it for children's rights. So what it is with us that we are afraid that children have rights. They have the right to speak, and we have also the right to listen. They have the rights for education. But also, in Norway, they never get arrested if they use drugs. And half of our young people over here, they are in jail because of drugs. Then we have a hang-up on sex. Over there, they don't have a hang-up on sex. I don't know why many times most of the people with sex and drugs, they end in jail. And it is so amazing for me because I started a program in the United States, went around more than $60 million to deal with children, to deal with gangs, to deal with youth, trying to get them out of jail because in no way that any child have to be behind bars. And I find the same thing. Those children, they cannot agree within their concept, in their heart, that they could resolve a conflict without using their hand or their gun or beating on someone up. And I said, what it is that we could change that, and that could work out. So my message for you as young people Don't let anger control you. You control anger. For any individual, as a young person, make you angry, it doesn't matter if that's your father, your mother, the policeman, or a teacher. Those who makes you angry are the ones who control you. You have to learn, if you want to be angry, you have to decide yourself to be angry, not to be angry by another person. And this is what we call a nonviolence concept of a conflict resolution to resolve the anger within you. Oh, but he gave me the finger, that's why I get angry. Well, every one of you could give me the finger, I don't get angry. Well, but he cursed my mother. That doesn't matter. So you start learning that you are the only one who control your anger. And that will be a first step of understanding yourself. King I start translating books about Martin Luther King and sending them to schools, and like this, in Arabic. I start writing books about Gandhi, send them to schools, talking about education. And it is hilarious, very hilarious. Just last week, there was an era, a group of Americans who help in the Middle East, and they brought 8 children to dance. And by bringing 8 children to dance in Washington, D.C., it's a big thing for the Palestinians. And they have this Dabke dance, and they went, in Washington, they went to visit different places. And while they are visiting the capital, the 6 people, the 6 kids, they have a Martin Luther King picture. A lot of them, they went over there. And the guide, he said, do they know Martin Luther King? How they would know Martin Luther King? Those are Palestinians. They are 8, 10, 11 years old. And one of the boys said, yes, we know him. I said, how do you know him? He said, we sing, we shall overcome. That's how we know him. You know, so the songs that we have, the poetry that we have, the art that we have, we all have those gifts. They are so much better than the idea of violence that we think that it is a powerful situation. I want to tell you a story that happened that also were so much amazing for me and changed my life. And that's what I learned from King and Gandhi. To be an active in nonviolence, I'll be speaking to Palestinian, work with the Palestinian, going to the Palestinian, have workshop with the Palestinian and everything. And one time, the Palestinian farmers, they came to the office and they said that the Israeli military came and cut olive trees in their field. And those olive trees have been very, very old. And you know about olive trees, they have been sometimes 100, 200 years old. They cut them. They uproot them. So a decision was made by the farmers. They said, we cannot get you those olive trees, but one thing we could get you, we could plant olive trees instead of those that the Israeli cut. And one fellow in our center, he said, Dr. Awad, you were talking about nonviolence. You are talking about forgiveness. You are talking about justice. Why you don't bring some Israelis to plant trees with us? I said, what? He said, Israelis to plant trees with us. And for you who have difficulty understanding the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, we have been fighting each other for more than now 60 years. Okay? Doesn't matter, destruction, rockets, wars, and everything else. And here a fellow Palestinian will tell me why we don't have Israeli work with us to plant trees. It's very much of a challenge. Because for a Palestinian first, if you want to go and talk with the Israelis, automatically you'll be labeled. And I told him, let's do it. So we went to Israelis and we told them, this is what happened. We would like you to come and plant trees with us. This is what happened. We'll bring the trees, we'll go to the farmer place, and we plant those small olive tree seedlings, and then hopefully that you will understand what your country is doing in your name. So I went to the Palestinians and I told them I am requesting to have the Israelis to come with us and plant olive trees. Well, they took 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and they came with a decision, yes, we'll accept Israelis to come and plant olive trees with us on one condition: they wouldn't come with their uniform, which is a military uniform. That was easy and accepted. The second issue was that when they come and work with us, that we have to cook for them. You know, it's an Arab hospitality. And we went to the Israelis, said, well, we are going to cook for you, and we went to the people in the village and said, can you cook for the Israelis? That took more than 4 weeks to decide that they are going to cook for the Israelis. Because a lot of Palestinians, especially the young Palestinians, they don't see Israelis as humans. They see Israelis only in a military uniform with guns in their hand and to kill them or to kill their parents or kill somebody. And here we ask them to come and eat with us. That we are cooking for them. I said, all right. A lot of Palestinians say, yeah, we could cook and we give them the food. And the third one, which was the most difficult one, that we all sit together and eat. You have to understand Arab culture. If you break bread, that means you are breaking bread with a friend. And here, that took longer than any time that the village decided, yes, we will break bread. And you cannot imagine the power of nonviolence when your enemy, you eat with your enemy and your enemy become your friend. Maybe for a minute, or an hour, or a day, just planting trees. But this is what King says to us. Look at the whites. Don't see them as enemies, see them as friends. The black didn't change. Please understand that. The black over here, they did an action to change the civil rights. The white changed the law, not the blacks. In Gandhi, everybody was upset with the British, but the Indian didn't stop the occupation. The British themselves decided to stop the occupation. The same thing in South Africa. The black were active and action and Mandela and everybody over there. But the white make a decision to stop apartheid. And that's an example for us as Palestinians. If there's going to be change in Palestine and peace in Palestine, the Israelis have to have commitment for peace and to make change, not the Palestinians. It's very heavy for an Israeli. What do you mean that, but you have, but this, but that, there's no buts. A lot of people here don't understand it's because of King. We have Obama as a president of the United States. And the blacks, they didn't put him in office. The white did. So the change of concept and the change in the other person becomes an important thing that Gandhi and King want everybody to know. You don't talk to your friends, talk to the enemies. And we Palestinians, we were doing that. And it makes a difference in our ideas, in our thinking, as well in a relationship between Palestinians and Israelis. Another thing which is a funny thing for me, there's a fellow by the name of Eddie Kaufman who happened to be a professor at the Hebrew University in Jerusalem. And he was dying to have a Palestinian to give a lecture at the university. And he told me, could you please give a lecture at the university, at the Hebrew University? You don't understand from a professor point of view is that to go to a Hebrew University, which is a Jewish place, and to give a lecture there, that means you are accepting the university, you are accepting occupation, you are accepting the student, you are accepting everybody. And I told him, I will, if you promise one thing, that I'll be free to speak. Oh, he said, yes, we are university professors. Don't worry. You are free to say whatever you want. And we have the democracy for it. I said, all right. I came here and was full of people with all professors and everybody. And then I stood up, I said, I am a PLO. Maybe for you, you don't understand that, but I told them that I am belonging to the Palestinian Liberation Organization. In 2 minutes, I was arrested. And I said, where is democracy? Where is liberty and freedom in a university? And believe me, the whole university professors and everybody tried to work out with the court, tried to work out with everybody there to release me. After a week and a half in jail, I got out, and Eddie came to the office. He said, Mubarak, we are sorry, but really, we would like you to come and finish the lecture. I told him, Eddie, why you like me to be arrested? And when I said, all right. When I came the next time to give a lecture, suddenly there were more than 30 Israeli flags behind me. I said, Eddie, what's going on? Why all those flags? Israeli flags. He said, I didn't put them. The administration put them. I said, all right, I go and get a Palestinian flag. And if it doesn't matter with all those flags, I will put the Palestinian flag and speak. In that time, if you have a Palestinian flag in your possession, you'll go 6 months to jail. So he said, where do you want to get the Palestinian flag? I said, I always have some in my car. So I went to the car and got the Palestinian flag, and with all the Israeli flag, I put the Palestinian flag. And I start speaking. Guess what? Not even finishing the second sentence, I was arrested. And that arrest, I felt it's not just. Even with all the professors, with all their ways of dealing with the Israelis and with the security, Eddie felt compelled to do something, and I went to prison, and I went on a hunger strike. Completely, I refused to eat. After a week, an attorney came to see me. His name is Jonathan Kuttab. He said, Mubarak, you are fat. You can deal with another 3-4 weeks of a hunger strike. Eddie Kaufman is behind, outside the jail, outside the prison. And he haven't been eating for a week because of you. I said, what? Here is an Israeli. He's a Zionist Israeli. He's a Jew. He went on a hunger strike for me as a Palestinian. I felt terrible. First I tried to feel angry or upset. I said, why an Israeli would do that for me? He had to bring his son, who's in the Israeli Air Force, to stand beside him. Because every time a taxi driver or people will come and spit at him, because it was in the newspaper that he's fasting for this Mubarak Awad, who's in prison. And they were throwing garbage at him. And he didn't mind. He said, I want to fast for this Palestinian. I was deported, I never saw him, never thanked him. And one time we were in Canada, in one university, and in the Canadian university sometimes they have showers and they'll have a big showers for men and showers for women. I was just getting out of the shower naked, and he was coming to get the shower naked, and we saw each other and we started kissing. And we have two people, he said, we are going to have a lovely conference. But this is what we learned from Gandhi. This is what we learned from King. You have to go over and beyond what your mother and your father and grandfather and your community telling you. Don't date this because he's black. Don't date this because he's a Jew. Don't go with this. Don't that. He's dark. He's not dark. He's a Catholic. He's a Protestant. For God's sake. When you, as a young person, you want to hear your conscience rather than your mother's voice, grow up. Because that's important, what we heard from King and Gandhi. We have to grow up, all of us. That's what we are doing. We are not doing it for ourselves. We are doing it for our community. And believe me, in Memphis and other places in the United States, our community needs us most. We have too many people who are poor in the United States. And if you look at Gandhi, he took the untouchable people and said they are equal to us. When you want to put your hand with a person who's homeless, and said, we are equal together, let's help each other. It's very tough, it's very tough. But that's part of the sacrifice that I'm talking about. And I want to end with a story, because we have a friend over here from Iraq. And the story hit me so hard that it changed so much of the concept of how we deal with nonviolence. And I hope that you could be able to see and hear him in a conference. I was training Iraqis in Jordan, and a fellow who is probably 6'4" tall, and Iraqis are not tall, that tall. And he was agonizing. And he said, Dr. Awad, you are talking about nonviolence, you are talking about this and that. I have my son who was shot and killed. I say, how it happened? He said, I bought him a plastic gun that he shoot water in it. And the second day, he went in the street and in front of the tank, he wanted to shoot the Americans. And the Americans shot him in the head and he died. Say, I can't sleep, I cannot think, I cannot do anything. I have to do something with myself. And I come to those nonviolence movements, nonviolence activities. Hopefully it would help. And this time, the only thing I thought of that old man coming to our office. I told him, you know, nobody can bring your son back, but how can you do something to stop what happened to your son? It happened to them. I'll be able to give you some money. And I gave him $500. Go and buy soccer balls, footballs, and tell any kid and every kid from where your area, your neighborhood, to come. If they bring the plastic gun, you give them a football. Just a soccer ball, a football. And that became obsessed with him. Now he is now in more than 10, 15 villages. That he is protecting other children from dying. And this is the concept of nonviolence. Sometimes we have to move ourselves and see how we could help the other people, the other person. Please understand, nonviolence is not a religion. It's not coming from God and telling you to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, and go and have a mass on Sunday or something like that. It's not that way. Nonviolence is a choice. You have to make that choice. You have to be an activist, you have to make that choice to be an activist. But don't depend on being a peace activist if you want to have a good life, to be rich. Make your degree in something else and put nonviolence on the side. It's very, very tough in the United States to function, to have a home, to have a car, just being a peace activist. Nobody can support you. They support you once, twice, 3 times, 10 times, then at the end say, we don't support peace activists. That's enough. You don't have peace, so why we support you? And that's what I even told my son, or my nephew, or everyone who wants to be a peace activist. Get a job and make nonviolence as your hobby. Thank you all.